There were a bunch of settings that Zoom, of course, just pushed out for us. So it looks like she's reconnecting.
So it's setting up right now, so it'll be just 1 second. Okay, we are good.
So everybody will have to turn their mics on.
Great.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:01. Jacqueline, can you do a roll call?
Okay, Brian,
Present?
Carl,
Here.
Colton,
Present.
Dawn. Here. Roger,
Here.
Susan,
Here.
Tina.
Here.
We're all here.
Okay, do we have any guest business? All right, we'll move on to action items. Approve the May 13th, 2024 meeting minutes. Jill? Do I need to
Oh.
make
I think Jill's name is next to B.
I'm sorry,
but-
so we need to approve the meeting minutes.
Yes.
Anyone want to make a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
One modification.
Yeah.
I need to find it. It's about the fish. On page 2, Tina Decker Arts and Park will have a table at farmer's market every other week selling fish. Memorial fish plaques,
Memorial fish plaques.
that'd be better.
That is correct. Memorial fish plaque.
Okay, so
Can
Well,
we,
actually not memorial here, because memorial means past, right?
Commemorative?
I can't remember the word. Let's go with memorial. That's fine.
Dedication fish, dedication fish.
Decorative fish?
No, it's,
I'm not quite sure what
is
the
it
found.
commemorative or no?
it's, yeah, I can't think of the word. Go with memorial. I think that's fine.
I'm pulling up the foundation website so we can get the
Oh,
language.
you're good.
I don't think you want to call it memorial because that usually means someone's
Legacy,
deceased.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's not what it is.
They are officially calling them legacy fish.
Legacy. There we go.
And if I can also recommend adding the word foundation, so it says Arts and Parks Foundation will have a table.
Okay, so do we need to make a motion to do that or can we just?
Make a motion to approve.
So we need to I'd make a motion to change the meeting minutes of Tina to Arts and Parks Foundation. We'll have a table at farmer's market every other week selling legacy fish.
With that change.
Yes.
With that change, I'd
I'd like to motion.
like to make a motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, I will make the modification.
Thank you. Motion passed. Okay. Approve chapter 5 of the Lake Stevens Comprehensive Plan and forward a recommendation for adoption. Jill?
Thank you. So by now you are probably familiar with the comprehensive plan, but that is in compliance with our Growth Management Act of how the city accounts for growth in their commercial areas and then their housing and how we plan for the future of parks. Chapter 5 is our parks element. And next year in 2025, we'll be doing a major update of the parks element. So this is a minor update year. I do want to make one note that last year you approved some changes on that. That was forwarded to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission had no comments or corrections on that. However, it did not continue to City Council for formal adoption yet. So these changes are in addition to that, but those original changes from last year are not included in this copy. So this will be sent with the changes, if you so adopt them tonight, to Planning Commission to continue on, but then to City Council, all of the changes for last year and this year will be forwarded to them. Yeah.
Was there any reason why they didn't forward it?
The planning department, I'm not exactly sure. They had a consultant working on it, and I understand that the consultant took a different direction with it. So it didn't go through the formal docketing process, but I'm not positive on. It was all of the comprehensive plan didn't go on to city council. I think they're still working on a couple of the elements in there, and so they're gonna bring it this year along with the parks chapter. So of the changes, there wasn't a lot. We did update the graphics on the front of the chapter. We updated the vision statement that has been updated within the department. We did the grammar check and then updated all of the references for 20th Street ball fields to indicate Westlake Park. So there weren't any substantive changes, but there is a red lines for you in the chapter that's attached in your packet. And I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you might have on that or take any suggestions that you have.
What's the page you just mentioned?
The page number that this begins, that the red line changes begins on page 6 of your packet.
Okay, I got the right one. Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
You bet. We did have some updated pictures of the parks post-development. The last pictures were a bit outdated. Plus, we like to give some variety and showcase different parks in different years.
Did you cut the vision? Because you just didn't want it to be word after word after word? That's a big cutoff there.
Yeah, the department updated the vision statement with the addition of the Parks and Recreation Department being created. Staff had visioning sessions for the department over a course of several meetings and developed a new vision statement. So we wanted to memorialize that in the document. The existing vision statement had been in since several years, at least since I've been here. So we thought that updating it with the vision of the department would be appropriate at this time.
So,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I had a question just on going into like page 35, 36.
Uh-huh.
When we talk about the budgets, and I just want to make sure I'm reading it correctly. So for example, page 36, was it originally 1 million and then now it's 4 million? Is that really correct? Am I reading that right?
For Cedarwood,
This one is project number 2, Eagle Ridge Master Plan.
yes, that is correct. That's based on the engineer's estimate after we've reached the 30% design.
So
Okay.
was the original 1 million there more of a placeholder kind of?
It was, we hadn't had any of the design work done. We hadn't done any of the investigation of what utilities were there, what was proposed and what that would cost in today's dollars. But we've seen some increases in the prices to get capital projects done as of late. And that was consistent with this project as well.
What page are you seeing that on? 36?
36.
Is that 36 of the comprehensive plan
Oh, excuse me.
or
Page
36?
36 of the comprehensive plan.
36.
Page 41 of our packet.
Okay.
Another thing that you likely are seeing with what looks like very inflated prices is the Parks Department really looked at all of our projects this year and revamped all of our estimates based on real construction costs today and what we do know. Versus I know that we didn't update these numbers. We didn't look at them last year, nor the year before. And I'm not sure when the last time was they took a deep dive into these numbers. So just to be clear, all the numbers haven't jumped in just 1 year. It's just an accumulation of needing to update it to today's dollars.
So for project 2, Centennial Woods, and 3, the downtown open space master plans, are those the costs just for the plans?
Is that under the planning?
That's on page 32 of the master plan,
Comprehend-
page 37 of the packet.
That's correct. So these are planning projects. So on Bayview Trail Phase 1 through 4, that's going to be the continuation of it. And then Centennial Woods, that's just for the planning.
The Bayview Trail, 500,000 is just for the planning as well.
Correct.
And we just had a meeting with Marysville to talk about that. Likely going to be that much for each phase in planning in order to get the full engineering documents. So
Is
it
that
is
gonna
a
be split between
multi-million-dollar
Marysville and Lake
project.
Stevens, or is that each city?
So each section in their respective cities will be that city's responsibility. So we are going to be seeking grants or appropriations for those. That was how the first 30% was done. Marysville was successful in securing some monies from the legislature to bring the plan to 30%.
And this is to bring the plan to 100%
Of each phase,
of each phase.
Right.
So this is 1 through 4. So this would be for phase 1,
correct?
the 500,000, and then 5 for 2, 3, and 4.
Correct.
Yes. Likewise, I was seeing on improvement project number 4. So it's page 44 of 66 packet, showing from 1.8 million to 4.2 million. And that would be for renovating the 5,000 square foot structure that is there. And the property essentially was given to the city, was it not? Or was there a cost?
For Cedarwood,
Yeah.
it was given to the city.
Yeah.
That's correct. And that we will have to update all of the description of that. We know that it would be not a remodel of the existing structure. It would be proposed to be a new one, although there's
I was thinking it would be cheaper if that was the case. Yeah.
Are there any other questions on the comprehensive plan?
On the Cedarwood Clubhouse, is that gonna be worked on soon, or are they just gonna set that off in the back burner for a while? Well,
We are going through budget right now with council. And what we do with budget every year is we also look at our capital plan and all of the different projects that we have. And the mayor has the first step of being able to look through everybody's requests throughout the entire city and talk to finance to see what the city can actually afford, and then recommend which ones move forward and which ones don't, and in what priority level. And that can be very complicated, based on keeping current services open, what we have money for, what we have grant money already committed for. So at this point, we have been working on all of the projects that you're aware of, including Cedarwood. I won't have answers about what is actually making the cut in next year's budget. I don't know how many total staff will be hiring at this time. That information will be coming forward in the next week where they go, hey, we can only hire 2 staff this year, or we can hire 10 staff this year. Or they say, hey, we have a total of $20 million for capital projects, or we only have $2 million. And so I won't have the answers today for which of these projects are moving forward. This is just an inclusive list of everything that we're looking at. We have very minor updates to the comp plan, just updating it with stuff that we know today. Worked on a little bit of wording, worked on some numbers like acreage that we updated. But certainly the budget process, it's public. I encourage you to attend city council meetings as that moves forward. Not only as the park board, but as citizens who have input as to what are the priorities? We just put out a citywide survey to try to find out how do citizens want us to divvy up our pot of money? What services are most important?
Is that on the Facebook page or?
Yep, it went through all of our social media sites, through website. It was issued through Zen City, and that survey has closed at this time. But certainly you can hit subscribe buttons to a lot of different sections, whether it's our website. Make sure you're following us on social media, and always have the opportunity to attend those. And I can start sending emails as budget process comes up here. It'll be about a month until we have a public meeting on it, I believe.
Do we know what the capital budget was this year?
Oh,
Parks?
I'd have to look at the total of what we were approved for. I know that it was Frontier Heights, which is coming in at around 3 million. Is that correct? We haven't been out to bid on construction, so we don't know the actual numbers there. It included Westlake Park, which was 20th, as well as that Start of Bayview Trail. That was slated to be around 1 million, and I think we came in at around 900,000 on the bid. And then we had some smaller projects that are getting pushed forward, such as we're now working on the road dock for North Cove. That'll be talked about in our parks update here later. And I know we had a couple other smaller capital projects that moved forward as well.
Was Sunset Beach included in that?
That was last year.
That was last year.
Yes.
I
Already
know,
last year.
time has flown.
Yeah, but that full capital list is online, and I can always send it to you if you'd like me
Okay,
to.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Question. The budget you guys are working on and stuff, is there anything in there that's looking forward for other parks or new parks? or
We're
purchases?
How about we come back to that in the topics when we go into maybe board member reports? Then you can go
Okay.
ahead and ask that question so we stay on this specific
Right.
topic. And I'll make a note to make sure we don't forget.
Any questions on the phone?
None here. Thanks.
None for me. Good job.
Do we need a little bit more time to go over the updates?
Have they forecasted what the increases might be like next year, like 5% higher than this or 10% or 15%?
Some of them are 100% higher.
Yeah, well, I mean, for next year, you have this cost here, but if it doesn't get done for a year or two, is it gonna increase that by 10%, 20%, or no one can tell?
There is a little bit of science to it, and then there is a little bit of what the market will bear at the time that we bid the project. So there's a standard escalation that you can put in to a project, but generally there's a lot of other factors that take place. So we did see a large jump after 2020 in our capital projects. Then we saw kind of a leveling out, and then we saw kind of an increase in the planning costs, but then a slight decrease in the construction costs. So there's a little bit of work in there. Our project manager in Public Works works really hard to with the engineers to come up with a good engineer's estimate so that when we're putting a project out, it falls within what's budgeted for that project. So sometimes that means things are taken off of the plans. If we get an engineer's estimate that comes back that we know we don't have the budget for, then we have to look at, right sizing the project to meet the budget or phasing it. That's been a one way of being able to do it, is you install part of the amenities and then come back and do the rest of them. But there isn't just a standard. I mean, you can use kind of the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and estimate, but every industry is a touch different as well.
Did I see that Tina had her hand raised?
I
Yeah.
do. In chapter 5, when we look at like the improvement projects, are they prioritized within the chapter or are they just listed?
They are generally prioritized with by number, improvement project number 1, improvement project number 2.
Okay.
I will offer a little additional information on that in the sense that sometimes there's a project that will run into a safety issue, and so that leapfrogs over perhaps
Yeah.
another project, or we'll end up with grant money for a project. So, but as when we poll the public and we do all of our public outreach and our major updates, these projects will emerge as being, real needs in the community. But there are also some external forces that change those as well, such as the safety, or if we had a amenity that something happened to, and we would need to replace that at a different park or move something.
Right.
So
Right.
there are things that come up, just like in your own budget and finances at home, that sometimes they just take priority over that. But
Can
this is
I-
generally based on the public input and, what the order of priority is.
So can you elaborate a little bit about why Davies Beach is after the clubhouse?
On the improvement projects.
Mm-hmm.
That was based on moving, we did the assessment of the condition of Davies Beach and then the option of moving forward. We have grant funding for Cedarwood.
Ah,
And so that was just kind of how it
got
felt.
it.
If something happens to the condition of Davies Beach where that would then
Yeah.
necessitate it moving up, then those are the things we look at.
And grant funding has a deadline that you have to spend it by, right?
Most often, yes.
Another thing to point out is this is what we call a minor update. So we don't have a lot of flexibility about like reprioritizing all of the projects
Oh,
dive. We are entering 2025, which is the year that Parks goes through the major update. And so we are proposing in the budget to hire a consultant. We're going to even look at our service levels, how that's calculated, really reevaluate our entire park system and redo this entire packet. So we have a really heavy lift coming up as we enter into 2025. But this one, we're only doing those minor updates.
got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, any other questions or concerns? Can I get a motion to approve Chapter 5 of the Lake Stevens Comprehensive Plan?
Make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
I'll second. Okay, got it done.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Are you opposed or in favor?
in favor.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay, so I think we had all in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you. Great.
All right, park fees. Sarah?
Park fees. I apologize. I was unable to get this to you with the full packet. Been working with staff to get their recommendations and juggle multiple projects. As you look at the fees this year, we have very few updates for the overall park system, a few more updates when it comes to the mill, as we haven't had any large fee adjustments. And I think about 4 years now, we only had minor fee updates on the mill in 2022, I believe the year was. So what I did here was put the location or category, the type of item, the details as to if it was an all-day or a half-day rate, what the fee is today. So when it was last updated was 2023, that's the current fee today. And then what we're looking to update things now, what I put as a column header is update 2024. So as we go through the list, the first thing that I saw was the observation deck. We originally had set it $75 because it wasn't a covered area. It was just an open area. But as we look at that facility, it really takes the same amount of maintenance as any of our other covered areas, same amount of staff time behind the scenes in order to prep it, post the calendar reservations. The other thing that happened is back when we did our last fee updates, we came up with these half-day rates. So instead of going 100, we went $60 for people who wanted to do half-day reservations. That wasn't originally supposed to apply to the observation deck, but with the way the wording was, it did apply. And so the difference was we only became $15 between those two. Due to that, we're proposing to bring the observation deck up to the same price as all of our other outdoor rentals, which should be $100. And so you see that one there. As you continue to move down the line, the next update we're proposing, this is for Davies Beach only. The parking at Davies, we allow $10 for the whole day, which matches the North Cove rate. What's special about Davies is we offer a 2-hour parking fee. You can't choose a 4-hour option. It's only for 2 hours. It's meant to be for short time stays. But that hasn't been updated in some time and was only $2. And when we started counting 2-hour blocks divided by what you would do for an all-day $10, it really wasn't the right way to calculate the fees. We also look at a lot of people are paying with cash and the machine doesn't have any capabilities of giving change out. What we're proposing is to go to $5. So if you only want to stay for 2 hours, you're paying $5. If you're planning to stay for a long length of time, then you go ahead and pay that $10 fee. The alternative to that, of course, is to buy an annual pass, and then you're covered for the entire year.
So I have a couple of comments on that, just from observations of my own and from other folks that have been to the boat launch. I've noticed multiple times cars parked in the boat trailer spots, and there's no,
If you could come closer to the mic
Oh,
just a little. Thank you.
there's no enforcement, and people that have paid for a season's pass can't get a parking spot because there's like 5, 6 cars parked in the boat trailer spaces. Is there any enforcement of the parking?
So currently, our rules, our procedures, and our ordinance doesn't say that you can't park a vehicle in a boat stall. There are some new ways I'm seeing boat parking installed, mainly when they're pull-through sites, they can convert to either 2 cars or to 1 boat with trailer. I've seen some facilities that take the direction of this is for the tow vehicle and a trailer only, and that it has to be a boat trailer, putting up signs and then enforcing it. We would have to create those rules if you're interested. I know it's been on our radar, but the second half of that is being able to enforce it. You have to have a dedicated staff member too. Our regular parks operations staff are not allowed to enforce rules like that. They could put out friendly reminders on the windshields, but they just are pressed for time right now. It would be working with law enforcement. And I know we are working with getting the park ranger and working through those steps. We've just been unable to hire. So it is certainly on our radar. We get several complaints, especially down at North Cove location about that. So it's on our radar. We just haven't been able to fix it yet.
Tina, you have your hand up.
I do. I was wondering, what is modification fee? Modification of a plan to rent out the observation deck?
So
It's under
We-
shelters and facilities.
yeah, so we can go to that and then go right back to the boat launch to see if there was any other questions or
Oh,
clarifications.
sure. Sure.
So the modification fee is under shelters and facilities. It is once you make a reservation for a shelter, so any of the shelters that you see listed above this location, if you say, hey, I want a date change, I want to change the time, you have to call us and it takes staff time in order to turn that over and then charge you any additional fees that are owed. Often people are increasing their stay, going to a whole day instead of a half day.
Yeah.
And let's take our staff time in order to change that. So what we have is if you make the reservation and you cancel with more than 14 days notice, we hold $25. If you're going to keep your reservation but move it to a new date and or time, it's $10. And under the 14-day mark, there's no refund and there's no changes allowed. And that's because our staff has to be able to process the information, get the reservation calendars out, get them to the field, and then they have to go post them.
Is there a reason that we keep $25 and that we don't do a full refund?
Because you have now blocked everybody else who has called and expressed interest in reserving it. And often people are canceling at that 15th, 14-day mark. And the chances of the Parks Department then actually
Got
renting
it.
to the next party drastically decreases.
Yeah, makes sense.
Did Roger, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I don't know if it's still the law, but if you buy a fishing license, aren't you able to park free anywhere you want? If in a certain parks?
Incorrect. And it's one of the most confused things for people who buy their fishing and hunting pass. What you get is often, I know in Oregon, it was called a wildlife area pass. What is yours called?
Called a fishing access
There we go.
pass. And so through that permit, you would have to park only on Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife at their water access sites. So we do have one on the lake, and that's at North Cove.
Right,
So,
but if that's.
But
the
not at
case-
Davies.
but not at Davies.
But if that's the case at North Cove and you have in a parking situation where you're charging people and then, these people pull in there and don't have to pay because they have the fishing license.
Well, that's a permit. So you've received your permit and you could park at North Cove with that permit. You can't park at Davies with that
Right,
permit.
but you won't be charged at North Cove if you have the permit.
Correct.
Yeah, I've had that before. And so you just put it out like you would any hiking pass or anything.
And that's our agreement with Fish and Wildlife because they own the property of North Cove. And so they're still in charge of the boat ramp itself and all repairs of the boat ramp. The city maintains the bathroom, the parking lot, and we're in charge of the docks as well. And so we just have that revenue and expense cost sharing.
So when they replaced that stuff at North Cove, was that the state that replaced that? The launch, or is that, because I always assumed that it was the city that did that.
The launch itself where you pull your trailer into, they paid for that and they paid for
Okay.
the resurfacing of the parking lot and the restrooms. Any of the floating facilities are the city's responsibility. And how that boils down is the state owns the property and the property is there to provide fishing access. So that's their goal and their mission at that site. We are now, at the time that that was established, we didn't have any need for any, other things there. Well, then the city grew up around it and now we're in this urban area and they have this fishing lot and they're saying, we love to partner with you, but our mission is not going to be the same as your mission. So the city said, if we take over maintenance of it and charge a parking fee to cover that, can we, put a road dock in, or can we put, the temporary moorage that's at the site? And the state's been a great partner in that, but understanding that their mission is really just for fishing access of the lake, angling access.
It's just been a while since I had my boat and used to
Yeah.
fish and park my boat and.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to park for free? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and you can still do that at North Cove.
Okay.
But Davies, separately from that was strictly for recreation.
Right.
So that's a different ballgame. So they capture the fee. of
The thing
all the
about Davies that
recreational-
always gets me is that it's such a small parking lot
Mhm.
and you can't really park there for 2 hours unless because if you go on the lake, you'll be out there at least 4 to 6, 7 hours.
Well, a lot of folks use it as a swimming area. So those folks don't want the full day. They're not going to be there all day.
Right.
They take the kids down and, the kids swim in the swimming area. But you're right. The people that are launching boats, often that's an all
No place to
day.
park.
Yeah, they're there for a long time. So interestingly enough, a lot of folks do like the short-term parking at Davies. And so we found that to be a need for the community. But doing the math, it doesn't check out for the intent. So we're proposing an increase in that.
Okay.
Without enforcement, do we even know how much of a return we're getting on parking in terms of number of cars parked versus people that pay?
We don't know the people that don't pay, but we can pull reports. And that's what we use to do our analysis of how many people are parking there, how long they're staying, what they're purchasing when they're there. And so we do have really good data on that. We don't have data on people that park there and don't pay.
At one time, did the Lake Stevens police,
Yes,
they
They
just
enforce there, yes.
stopped enforcing?
yeah.
So they don't.
And they're
do that
down
now?
officers right now. They have some openings and part of they did a little bit of reorg. And so I think their traffic officer was doing the ticketing there for a while but they'll be hiring.
So we
they
can
have
park
been-
there for free right now.
No, you are not able to.
No,
We did have 5,689 individuals pay with either cash or credit card last year. I haven't broken that down yet as to if they were buying annual passes at the kiosk, the $2 stay or the $10 stay. I wasn't able to quite crunch all of that data, but I will be bringing it forward so as this advances forward.
Thank you.
This is a bigger feedback thing than necessarily what we need to do today, but have we thought about any type of program for maybe those folks that are, city residents that are disadvantaged to be able to have an opportunity to either have a discounted fee or pass for the day or something on some of these things?
So at this point, no, the only discounts that we give are for nonprofits with the rental of our facilities. As our department develops, we will be looking at different options for different programs. Usually that is for recreational programs and more what we call community benefit. So for instance, everybody needs to learn how to swim, right? And so you have discounts for those type of programs versus individual benefits such as renting the mill. You usually don't give a discount for that simply because you're taking taxpayer dollars in order to pay for it. And so it really is a balance between when things are being paid from the general fund, how do you support it? We haven't been able at this point to crunch what we call our cost recovery amount, our model for that. And that would show of every dollar spent out of the general fund, how much is Parks bringing back in, and setting what that target is with council and what the threshold would be for discounts and scholarships. I'm hoping to get to that this next year, but I was also hoping to get to it this last year and we haven't.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of the rental part of it per se, although that's an extension of the idea, but definitely parking.
We,
Like senior citizen or
Senior citizens, those
disabled.
on a limited budget.
we do offer free parking at Sunset, City Beach, Lundin. So we can still, and at North Cove. So you still can definitely visit the waterfront parks. And then of course, all of the non-waterfront parks as well.
It's a good reminder.
Without paying. The fee came about from this just the extreme expense of operating the boat launches and any capital improvements on the water. So when and we'll talk about a little bit in the update, but with the upcoming capital projects that are needed on our at our boat launches, it helps, defray some of those costs. But I think that we've always felt it was important to have folks be able to access the water certainly, and our parks as well.
The other column I see that I didn't print because there was just a lot of side notes is in regards to our annual pass for boating. One thing that the department is going to be moving forward to council, and so I want to note it here because it does affect the fees, is the types of passes that are accepted at each of the boat launches. So at this time, Davies Beach, because that property was acquired from the county, we're still honoring their county annual pass. So if you buy a county one, you can come and use Davies Beach at no cost. That's not helping with the city's operation of that location. It was a deal as we acquired it, and we're giving that grace period. It says in our contract that we can end that at any time with notice. And so we're intending to end that agreement with the county as the Parks Department does have expenses and we need to cover those costs for taking care of the facility. At North Cove Park, we are at this time also accepting the Discovery Pass, which is for Washington Parks. It really has, there's a separation between that and the fishing, the water access pass we were talking about. We'll still offer that water access pass as it is part of our lease and operation agreement with the state. However, I'm not quite sure how or when we started taking the Discovery Pass, and it's not to our advantage to do that as we don't get any revenue from that program. And so we would be proposing to eliminate that. Additionally, right now, we are accepting all Washington disabled veterans passes at both launches. So that's a question to this group and then again to council. Is that something that we want to continue to offer as it does take money to upkeep both of these? So I guess that is one discount, Susan, that we are giving right now. Any discussion on that before I move down the line to the next fees?
So the annual pass then for the boating, they can park there all day if they wanted to.
That's correct. Yeah, every day.
Okay.
As long as they're launching or returning.
So moving down the list, the next fee proposal is for Eagle Ridge Garden. Currently, we,
I have my hand raised.
Sorry.
I'm really excited to hear that you're going to more standardize the parking because eliminating the other passes because it's very confusing. as to if you're a new person, like when I was like, what am I supposed to use? And because I had the state parking. So I'm really excited to hear that you're going to be going to just our parking fees. And then I had a question before you go to athletic fields. What is technology feed? What does civic rec mean?
We put the note of civic rec transactions because that is the one program that we use with our Parks Department. Civic Rec is our database to book all of our facilities online. So whether you're looking to book one of our shelters or the mill, it's also now where we're starting to run our classes and post all of the recreational classes going on in the event. It's how we manage our department essentially with the public facing piece. Throughout the entire city, we have something called a technology fee. So all of the permits through your planning and community development department, for instance, we all charge what's called a 3% technology fee, and it is meant to cover the cost of the program that the city needs in order to do business.
Yeah, that makes sense. The technology fee is a nomenclature that didn't make sense to me as to what it does. But I was thinking that it meant somebody was needing some technology at their shelter or something like that, like needing a PA system or something.
And to clarify, that 3% is charged regardless of how you pay. So whether it's credit card, cash, or check.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right.
On the athletic fields, I mean, what fields are you talking about? Like for adult, for renting adults 2 hours, what field can they use?
At this time, the only one that is available is the green grass area out at Westlake Park, which was 20th. As we go through that remodel, it's unclear at this point because it's not part of the current project. If we'll be able to redo the field out there. If we do end up retilling the field and adding new soil and being able to paint lines on it, then we will come back and revisit these fees. Additionally, we still need to do a fee assessment for the new artificial turfed field going in at Frontier, and we'll have to bring back those fees as well. But staff just hasn't had time to compute those numbers, and we didn't want to miss our opportunity with the citywide effort right now to redo the entire fee schedule.
Okay.
So if they're renting the field, that just means only for their use and that no one else can be on the field, right?
It guarantees their use so they can, if anybody is in that area, they can say, hey, we have a reservation. Can you please migrate to another portion of the park? And if they don't, they're able to call the non-emergency police number and get assistance. Usually people are great about moving and relocating, especially for sports.
Do you charge emergency services fee when people use a credit card? Pass that fee on?
Currently, the city is not charging a credit card fee. It was just discussed with our last meeting where we first met. It was our very first budget meeting to say, hey, is that something we're going to be looking at? So that is being discussed
It'd be very reasonable.
up above.
to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our pet.
As we move down the line, Eagle Ridge Garden Beds, we're currently charging $40. That includes your water for the entire year. Use of tools that have been donated that are there in the garden. We've also been doing soil amendments. Each year we do a little bit. We also have to prep any beds that are not returned to the condition that they were found, which we're trying to enforce more month to month to ensure that everybody's taking care of the beds they rent. We did an analysis of how much we're charging for electric and water and the cost of actually maintaining it. And we recommend increasing that by $10, which would bring a normal garden bed for the entire year, $50. And then we noticed that the half-size beds, they're the raised ones for ADA, those fees were never on the book. And that's why you see it grayed out under the $20. They're half size, which is why they were charging 50%. But I formally added that in here this year as part of the update to go to 25.
Do you remember what the original cost was when we opened up the garden beds?
$40.
Oh, so it's always been
Yeah.
What a deal.
That's what I remember.
Okay.
I don't know that we've ever updated the cost.
So much for inflation in the garden beds.
Well, like I said, part of this department starting is getting an analysis of everything. So you march through different sections and then you have experienced eyes take a look at it. So that's why you're seeing some of these that haven't changed since they began.
The next fee that we updated at the bottom of the first page is the lease rate for concessions. So this is the default rate. It was at 5%. We are recommending to increase it to 10% of revenues. It's more in line with standards. And it was the last negotiated rate that we had for the concession at Lundin. On the second page, we have a boat launch closure. This only happens a few times a year. But that is where staff have to put out public notice in advance after reviewing the event permit to allow to close it. Our staff have to go out and put down the cones, close it, keep it closed for the event, and then reopen it afterwards. So just looking at pure staff time, which is an internal rate of $68, or when we charge the public $111 an hour, we're recommending bringing that up to $200 in order to stay in rate with what it actually costs us to do those services
That's 200 per day, not per hour.
per day. That's correct. The $111 would be per hour. We did not have a specific line for theft, vandalism, damage, or loss of items. And so we were proposing the actual cost of replacing the item plus 20%. And then in addition to that, charging for staff time. And so we have that one detailed out now. Often it is things within the mill where a chair breaks or something goes missing, such as maybe the microphone. We usually call and are able to get those returned, but on the off chance we're not able to, that's what we would be looking at. Theft, vandalism, that could be other damage within the park as well. So it just establishes, instead of only charging for the item to replace it, that we are also going to charge this additional amount. And then the last one, we noticed as we went through the fee schedule that they did have a called out item that in order to charge for staff time, we adopt and refer to the billable rate that finance establishes each year. We recognize we now just need to break that out specifically for parks now that we have a parks department. Any questions or comments on that before we dive into the mill fees?
Can I say one thing before? Your half-day rate, is there a certain time, like a morning time to an afternoon time?
Yeah, it's only available during summer months essentially, so it's
Right.
not year round. What we do is an 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and a 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. is how we have that.
Okay, so then after the summer, it's a free for all if whoever gets there first, or do you still have to pay for it?
We only have the full day rates at that point. So when a shelter goes unreserved, anybody can use it. It's a first come, first served basis. Multiple groups can be using it. When you reserve it, when you show up, if somebody else is there, you're able to ask them to leave and then ask for enforcement. If that doesn't happen, we post the reservation calendar so the whole public knows there's a reservation happening. We also turn on the electricity if you have reserved it in advance. Whereas if you just walk down to the shelter today, the electricity should be turned off.
Tina, you had your hands up.
I do. So I'm just trying to understand the expense. Like, let's say I have a birthday party and I want to have it at Lundin Park. Am I paying a shelter fee, an event fee, recycling container fee, a park permit, and staff fee?
No, these are all separate. So if you are reserving a shelter, you're paying the one fee of the shelter fee. So $100 for all day.
Okay. So what's event then?
So event is when you apply for an event permit. And so anytime you see the public events happening, so we can call them out Aquafest or the Health and Wellness.
Got it. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yep.
Thank
And
you.
that's why you'll also see under the park permits, it's $35 for a park permit. So if you're just simply going to apply to do something with 50 people in the middle of the park somewhere and you're asking for permission in order to comply with code, perhaps you just want amplified sound or something of that nature, it's a $35 fee. But you'll see here noted that when you have a shelter rented, that there is no cost for that. We just need to make sure you get your special permissions in.
Okay.
We're
Okay,
doing a deep dive into all event permits and park permits over winter. And looking at the criteria of each of the levels as well as the fees being charged in order to revamp that system.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, the mill. This looks very confusing, but we tried to make it as easy to read as possible. We put it in grid form. What you're looking at is the top half of the page is everything being charged currently, whereas everything under that gray bar that says modified proposed, that is what we are proposing as updates. Again, we haven't had any major fee updates on the mill since 2020. We had just very few dollar roundings that occurred. I believe it was 2 years ago now. Currently, when you want to reserve the entire mill, we have a price of $1,800 on a Saturday and $1,300 if it's a Friday or a Sunday. We're proposing to increase that to $2,000 for the Saturday and for $1,800 on the Fridays and the Sundays. Moving down to Hartford Hall, we have all-day rentals available there. Similarly, the cost increased for $200 on a Saturday. On Friday and Sunday, we know it's getting used just as much and it costs us the same level of service to put those on. So we are asking for $1,200 there. And then Monday through Thursday, it would be an $800 fee. For the first time, we're proposing that when you want to reserve Hartford with the stack, that will be packaging it as a flat rate instead of having to rent Hartford Hall all day and then doing the stack per hour, because that exponentially gets very expensive to do. And we wanted to encourage people to do all day rentals or full room rentals for the day. So when you're adding on the stack, it goes up to $1,800, $1,500, and then $1,000. Hourly, we only offer Hartford Hall hourly rentals Monday through Thursday, and that would be for $85 an hour. As we go down the line, the stack, we would be increasing to $70 an hour for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then the Monday through Thursday rate would be $60 an hour. The Sawyer's room, this room that we're sitting in, would be $120 per hour on a Saturday and $100 an hour Friday and Sunday. Additionally, right now we're offering nonprofit discounts, which is a reduction of 30% on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and a reduction of 50% Monday through Thursday. We're proposing that that changes to a 20 and a 25% reduction instead. Other changes that we're making for the hourly rate, right now you can reserve any individual room for 2 hours. The 2-hour mark is becoming increasingly hard for people to make by the time you set your event up, get through your rental, and then have to clean it and exit. It's very hard for people to do that 2-hour block. Additionally, we have a high staff cost in order to clean the facilities and get it booked, posted, meet with you, and do the walkthrough. And so we are going to be asking for a minimum of 4-hour rentals whenever we do hourly rentals instead of all day. And then we are looking to increase the deposits because we had very small deposit amounts. The majority of issues do come when we have alcohol in the building. And so we're looking to increase the alcohol deposit to $250 for individual rooms or hourly rates and $500 when you have the entire mill. Any of our rooms will have a $250 deposit. The entire mill would go up to $500, as currently it's only $250. We do have currently, we don't call it a cancellation fee. What we do is have policies that say you lose your deposit. And so we're changing that to make it clear that it's called a cancellation fee instead of calling it you lose your deposit. We have some very confusing language about that policy. We currently have it so that when you book the mill, you make a deposit and then you come back and basically do a payment plan. And it's becoming very hard for staff to track. There's a lot of hours and going, you haven't paid. Hey, you have to pay. We're canceling reservations. And within 24 hours, people are very upset calling us saying, hey, I meant to pay. I need to pay. And so I think it would be a lot smoother if we just collect all the fees up front. Additionally, the city should not be financing things on behalf of the public. And so it would be a clean cut for everybody to just pay at the time you book and save a lot of staff time, confusion, and upset customers.
That makes them follow through with their plans then too. Once
Yes.
you put the money out.
Yeah. And if they change, there's just a straightforward cancellation fee instead of also confusing people down the line.
So when you rent the space, what do you get? Or you just get the space and then you are responsible for bringing anything AV tables and chairs you might need? You give them an empty room?
So depending on the room, this specific room, the tables and chairs you're looking at are cleared out. They're for council use only, in addition to the mics in the podium. What we have out in the hallway and behind the black curtain before you leave, I'm happy to unveil it if you haven't seen back there. We have chairs and tables available for use. We have round tables as well as rectangular tables. So you're able to utilize those and bring them in. We have some black satchins and a couple other like A-frames and things. You also have access to all of the technology in the room. So we have our screens, we have Bluetooth, we have Wi-Fi, we have electricity.
Microphones, and toggles, and we provide a bunch of different stuff for them to be able to connect themselves. So.
We do ask when people use the facility before they leave that they return it to the condition found. So that means wiping down the counters, using the vacuum or the broom, if there was a spill, to clean that spill. And then they need to pull the garbage liners, and we have a dumpster out back. So they just throw their garbage straight into the dumpster.
How many
Who sets-
hours? Sorry.
Who sets it all up? The parks people?
They make reservations. Dawn takes the lead, Tanya's the backup, and Jack is also a backup. So if
Who sets it all up though? I mean, like the tables and.
you walk into an empty room, and so it's up to your event to set up the space how you desire to use it.
Okay.
But we have a 15-minute period where we walk through the building, we show you all of the facilities, where the restroom is, how to use the AV system, how to get hooked up to Wi-Fi. And so that's a 15 minutes that's not part of your reservation. It's before your reservation begins. So if your reservation begins at 2, you're meeting with our staff at 1:45 in order to accept the building condition and get a short training.
And then how many hours? If I rent something for the entire day, what is that?
Ah.
For 10.
For the entire day, that's a 13-hour rental. It starts at 9 a.m. and ends at 10 p.m.
Great.
Tina, you have your hand up?
I do. So just trying to understand the chart as far as when it's grayed out, what does that mean?
That rate type is unavailable, and therefore that room is not able to be booked either for that full day or for the hourly rate. So one thing you'll see is that this room we're sitting in, Sawyer's room, is never available Monday through Thursday. And
Is
that's
that new?
No, that's not new. It's so that the city can use Monday through Thursday in this room for meetings and city business. And then it blocks it off for tonight for Parks Board. Tuesday's usually city council. They also have planning meetings and additional after-hour things.
Didn't the Arts and Park Foundation used to meet in the Sawyer's room?
That is correct. The city had allowed them to use it. It was what they called city business with the partnership that we had. And then I know that
Oh.
they ended up choosing to relocate.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on the fee changes?
So if anybody doesn't agree with fees or any of the small changes I talked about with policy, that's okay. You are able to say, hey, I'd like to see this one raised. I'd like to see this one lowered. I don't want to see this one change. In the end, what we're looking for is a recommendation for city council to adopt these fees as shown, or as modified by this group.
What kind of occupancy I've been having for events? I mean, is it real popular? Or is it kind of still middle or down low or?
We see a lot of use, a lot of Friday, Saturday. I don't think quite as many Sundays, but definitely do get Sunday reservations. I need to pull reports for occupancy reports. Unfortunately, I found out this week that or last week, should I say, that our database won't just give me one report with occupancy reports. We're going to have to manipulate the data in order to tell you that this room is occupied 80% of the time or whatever those figures end up being. But staff is busy. Let's put it that way. We almost always have somebody on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays working.
All through the summer, we didn't have one opening. Our first one not until October. So every weekend we're completely booked, and then throughout the week it's changes. So
Sounds like we have a few openings in February historically is what Dawn was telling me today, just from her memory.
Mhm.
So we'll be looking at that stuff and saying, hey, how do we address those? Is it just getting the word out to the public, or are they just slow months?
Well, if you got the business, you might as well raise the rates because the rates are pretty still reasonable.
We definitely look at what facilities are charging around us, as we never want to undercut the market. But we also have to look at what it actually cost us to pay electricity in this building, to pay the water, to pay the trash, to pay the staff, as well as the depreciation on the building. You have repairs, eventually it'll need a new roof. And so the cost of reserving this should address the cost of keeping the building open.
And the staff does give the 15 minutes beforehand, but if they need something during it, we're also called back to it. So we have to account for that in it as well.
I mean, 13 hours is a lot of time. I mean, I worked in hotels doing events and we never just sit here 13. I mean, it was 4 hours, 6 hours. It was so I mean, it's a pretty good deal in my opinion.
We look forward to you reserving it in February.
I was thinking
Nice.
by the time you do the setup and the cleanup, your event time does get. eaten up.
Maybe get
Yeah.
a city discount too.
I mean, it's easy. I mean, I roll a couple tables in, put some chairs down, you buy some little things off Amazon. You can have quite a lovely event for not that much money.
Tina, your hand is up.
It is. I just wanted to say, I think that all of these changes are reasonable. And I applaud you because I'm sure this was a lot of work. And I think that it makes sense. Everything's more expensive these days, and, maintaining the building and paying our workers. I think that this is all very reasonable.
Thank you.
All right, were there any other questions or and did anyone want to make any suggestions for change?
Not a question, but I think we should, we're really have advanced 10 years. I mean, this building alone has added a lot to the community. And so I know there are some complaints that things have gone up or doesn't work quite right, but overall, it's been great. And you can quote me on that.
All right, can I get a motion to adopt the proposed fee changes?
Make a motion to adopt.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Colton, I don't think we heard your vote.
I was a little slow to the mute button, but not opposed. In favor.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes.
Great.
All right, November Park Board meeting. Jacqueline.
So currently, the November meeting is set for November 11th, which is Veterans Day. The city is closed, and since it's a federal holiday, we're asking to move our board meeting to Thursday, November 7th, or Wednesday, November 13th, or the third option is Monday, November 18th.
The reason we didn't recommend canceling your November meeting is because we don't have a meeting in December, and it would just be another long gap. But it's certainly a discussion matter if you choose as well.
Seems like the 18th.
I like Monday, November 18th, because it's keeping on the same day that I would normally have reserved for something, i.e. the park board. So that's my preference.
Okay.
I agree with that, Tina.
Roger, do you have a preference?
No.
No. Brian?
I'm looking.
Okay. Dawn?
But Monday works for me.
So it'd be
Carl? do you
November
have a-
18th, what you said.
What are they for their say?
Okay, I like this.
Yeah, I'm fine with the
Can we
18th.
quote you on that too?
Brian, you're good with the 18th? Colton, are you good with the 18th?
I'm fine with it. Thanks.
All right.
Is Thanksgiving that Tuesday and, or that Thursday and
It's the
Friday?
fourth week and this would fall on the third week.
Okay, perfect. Yep, good.
You might be baking on the 18th, so I can.
Or leaving, yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like Monday, November 18th is good. If you guys-
So do we need to get a motion? Can I get a motion to change the November park board meeting to Monday, the 18th?
I move that we change the park board meeting to Monday, November 18th.
Second.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion passes. Okay, discussion items, work plan status update. Jill.
Thank you. So this is just to give you an update of the annual work program that was adopted at the end of last year. And to give you just a status of what is, where you're kind of at on the work plan. So we'd like to do this mid-year, just to make sure that we're staying on track and answer any questions that you might have. So this year, we've done the renaming of the 20th Street Ball Field and the trail in Marysville. And we have reviewed the 30% engineered plan. We're going to still have some public meetings on the playground design and other feedback, but you have reviewed the 30% designs and given feedback on those. The 30% review of the architectural and engineering plans on Cedarwood, that is behind schedule. So that's going to be on hold. You probably will not be seeing that in your third quarter. So that's just a heads up. And North Cove Boat Launch Docks, we have need, I think that we've shared this, that we've gone out for some grants, for planning grants to get for the marina at North Cove. That's the temporary mortgage that's alongside of the float, the boat launch. That does not include the row dock, but that is another project I'll talk about in the parks update. And then visiting all the city parks. And Sarah had some, I think, Sarah, were you gonna
Oh, yeah.
additional information on that?
Of visiting city parks, we wanted to make sure that everybody has the forms. Has anybody tried to upload a survey and have questions about how to do that online or ran into technical issues? One of the things we wanted to do is make sure that everybody has it on paper. So with our inspection sheets added at the bottom, if you want to turn in this piece of paper but don't want to get online and fill out the online survey, you're welcome to lay it flat, take a photo of it and text it over to Jacqueline's work phone. You could also email it in, drop it off to us in person. City Hall has people staffed, as well as you can come see Jacqueline at the Parks and Public Works building Monday through Friday, or bring it here to this Parks Board meeting. We had talked in our work plan. It'd be a really great goal for everybody to go and visit every park and know what decisions that you're making and help us prioritize what does need to be repaired or move forward, especially as we get into next year's comprehensive plan update. Going to be really important. On this sheet, we just want to start tracking every meeting, who's been to what parks, but we thought this would be a really great way for you to take this yourself and to make sure you have a checklist of what parks you visited. Officially, we have only received one survey. Great job, Susan. We understand it, everybody's busy, but some of you may just be using these parks and forget to fill out the forms. And that's okay. You could do it from your memory from when you did visit if you don't have it with you. If you ever need another copy, don't hesitate to ask Jacqueline, I know you have it in your emails, but if you're like me, you get 500 emails a day and it quickly goes somewhere else. We're happy to print as many paper copies as you need. If you would like 20, so you have one for each location and room for some mistakes, we're happy to give you that.
Tina, you have a question?
I do. Do you want us to send these in as we visit the park, or do you want us to collect it all and then send it in all at once?
My preference would be if you could send it in as you do them.
Okay.
That way it's easier for me to put these together on our form.
And especially it'll allow us, if there is something that needs immediate attention, that it's at least on our radar.
Yeah.
Like, something that we
And-
don't know about.
I love this that you did this because I completely forgot that we had this piece of paper. So I'm emailing Sarah going, we need to clean the garbage cans. And it should have gone on this on this form.
I'm just glad you're using the parks. That's the point, right? We're all on board because we care about them.
So in front of you guys, I did give you 3 blank ones to use and fill out if you would like to. I can resend electronically as well. And I thought this one might be good for you so you can keep track of what you've done yourself. But then this is also what we're doing on our side to keep track of who's visited which ones and what the feedback is. And on the bottom, I listed the addresses for each one of the parks to make sure that you guys are able to find them.
Where's Mandolin Park?
Mandling Court, you're
Court.
gonna drive to the end of a cul-de-sac when you type in that address. And it is gonna be a tiny patch of grass between the houses almost immediately straight when you drive into the cul-de-sac. It's where they did have a playground prior. It was downsized to those 2 bouncy metal pieces that were just removed about, it's been a year and a half ago now. But it is a parcel. And so it's great to get eyes on it to say, I understand why there's not a playground here and why one's not being proposed, or for you to come in with a different opinion and say, I think you can fit something here. Right now, it's just a very tiny parcel of green grass. But if you haven't visited it, it I think would be just a good idea so that you know what we're referring to. That one will be your shortest park visit out of all of these, I bet.
Probably my last time there too.
And then on the end of the work program on the second page, it says volunteer at special events and park beautification days. So in the parks update, we'll of course go over the special events coming up in the next couple months, but we can always use volunteers for that. And it's a fun way to hear from the community. And then, of course, the outreach and coordination with community groups. I know a lot of you belong to other clubs and organizations, so.
Tina, you have your
Can we
hand up?
go, can you put it back to, on the screen, back to the work plan? There, yeah, thank you. And, yeah, I can't remember my other question.
No problem. If you think of it, you can let me know.
So Joe, that volunteer, is that something that we sign up for now or what?
Yeah, that would be great.
I mean,
If
what-
there's,
Okay, cause what, I mean, is there another page besides this 2 thing to see what's going on or?
yeah, every park board meeting, we list the upcoming events.
Okay,
And so we'll be going over that in the parks update. And then also we advertise for them on social media and on the website. So when we bring these events forward, everything from Harvest Fest, Winter Fest, and all things in between, it's always as many helping hands are always good to pull these off because as you know, our
so are you
parks team is relatively small.
are you gonna ask us, like at a parks board meeting, who wants to do it or is it?
We just had it on your work program to encourage your participation in those. It's not a requirement of the board, but we encourage it. So if you see an event come up that you think would be interesting, I know you have done music in the park in the past. Those are just, it's always helpful to us. So it's just a reminder.
And if there is one that you want to state, like, oh, I'd like to volunteer for that, I can note it here and have Tanya contact you directly to set you up with some timing and some more details. Or you can email us and we can add you to our list. So.
And a lot of them are fun. It's not a lot of commitment. I mean, you know, I did,
I've done the Halloween one too, and that
yeah, I did theater in the park yesterday, and it was, you know, you set up and you help the kids with their activities, and then you get to watch the show. So it's, you know, they're fun events. I mean, obviously we wouldn't be here if it wasn't because we love Parks and Rec. Come on. So yeah, that's all I had on the work plan update.
Is there a minimum age to volunteer?
Oh, that's a great question.
Sorry, I didn't hear what your question
Minimum
was.
age for volunteering?
When you come out to our volunteer days where you're directly supervised, no, we don't have a minimum age. Of course, young kids will need to have their parents stay behind. If you are looking to be part of the Adopt a Park program or the Adopt a Street program, those activities are not directly supervised by a park staff member. And I do believe that we have an age constraint on those. Is it 13 or 16? Do you have any recollection?
I'm not sure, but we can find out for you.
Yeah. And just because it's not supervised and then especially with the street work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tina, your hand is up.
It is, I remembered. So back to the park visits, you mentioned that there's an online survey, and I'm just completely blanking on this. Is that something you can send out to us? Is that the electronic form essentially?
So there was two ways that I sent originally. There was a survey form where you go to the link and fill it out online and then hit submit. And the second way was I sent a PDF that you fill out electronically and then
Okay.
back. So those are the two when we mention survey online versus the fill out the form.
Okay.
Now I have this third way where I've put in as a printable with lines for you to write. So
Got it. Thank you so much.
welcome.
But to be clear, it is all the same information. So you only have to do one of those options when you submit it.
You wrote that much and wore it out.
All right. August Parks update. Jill?
Awesome. Thank you. So your August Parks update, from your last visit, the dedication plaques at Caballero, there was missing plaques. They are there now. I took a picture of them. I'm including them in your packet so you can see what it looks like. And then I tried to get a good picture of the intersection so you can orient yourself on the site to find out where it is. It's right next to the skate park. And the concession area and the covered picnic shelter at Lundin got a paint job. We got some pictures of those. Those are our Lake Stevens colors. They turned out real nice on those. And park staff did attend the Stevens Creek Family Engagement Night to look at playground options. And we had kiddos put their sticker on their favorite playground amenity. It was a lot of fun. Jacqueline and I went out there and we had a nice time.
It was great. They were very receptive to all the things that we brought. And we were able to spread a lot of information that they didn't know about, like us being on different formats for social media that they could follow to find out more things right on the dot when it happens, like closures, openings, new events, activities, programs that we're providing. So that was really cool to be able to talk to them about it too. So
Yeah, it was great. And the Grove Church came out and volunteered. They did their iHeart Days. Some of you may be familiar with this. They volunteer every year. They put in a week of work. They bring, it varies. I don't know how many people they had this year, around 10, but they just did a ton of work for us. And they put in a lot of hours. So I included some pictures of the work that they did out at the disc golf course. Oh, now I'm not seeing the pictures. I apologize. We'll get those out to you.
And I
And
think the 10 people was at North Cove, but they did several days. So I know they had a lot more volunteers in total, just to give them credit. They did a great job.
Yeah. They've come in before with like 40 people and they have done some really big projects. They put all the beauty bark in at North Cove right before Aquafest. So that was really helpful.
Tina, I saw that your hand was up. Did you want to make a statement really quickly or?
Yeah, I saw two things that I don't know if they're supposed to be on here or not. I thought of two things. And one is, we did the, um, uh, throw the dirt at Westlake Park, and we did the art is up on the wall in the water feature at North Cove. Are those things that would go part of Parks Update?
You know, the groundbreaking, I forgot to put that on here, but you are welcome to go over the fish info under your board
Okay,
reports.
okay,
Be something fun for you to report out on. But yes, we
Okay.
did have a groundbreaking a couple weeks ago at Westlake Park to begin the trail out there. So a couple of you made it out there. I think you all received the invitation for it, but it was fun. I guess we'll have you out for the ribbon cutting too. So
Can I wear my hard hat again?
of course, we would take nothing less. On July 29th, our new parks maintenance lead, Chancey, started. You will see him out and about. He comes to us from, I believe it's the city of Everett, with a lot of previous experience. So he's doing well. The park department also started our very first activity guide, and it's called Trails. And the guide shares all the information on the upcoming events. It's online, and it's also, you can pick one up at City Hall and at the Public Works and Parks building out at Hartford. But we just released it like last week, I think was the first issue. Is that right? Or the week before?
We did it in July.
Oh, okay.
And then the next one is coming out at the end of September, 1st of October. And I brought a sample of it if you guys want to look at it right after the meeting. So,
Was that available at the Health and Wellness Festival?
It wasn't out yet. Yeah.
but we do have a QR code, and if you go to notify me on our webpage, every time we put a new one out, it'll be sent to you via email or text. So, and if you guys want help with that, I can show you right after the meeting.
And then an item that's not on here, but I will share is the Lake Stevens, or the North Cove low float row dock has reached a point where it is leapfrogged up. It is in need of emergency repairs. And so the city has ordered a new dock and a new transition piece, which will be a ramp. And we're looking at ways of being able to integrate some of that in for their regatta coming up at the end of September. But the permitting on the project is quite lengthy. And so we will have the full permits to install during what's called the fish window, which is governed by the Department of Fish and Wildlife. So that generally starts in June and ends in September. And so it will be installed fully next year, but you will, if you hear of that coming about, it might, part of it, the ramp might be installed early and then have the rest of the dock in, but we're working with the permitters to kind of nail down our timeline on that and what we would be able to do.
The old one just wore out? Is
Yeah.
that part of it? The
Yeah.
front part or just?
The ramp especially is just experiencing some deterioration. And so it's just time. It's been repaired several times, but it's time for it to.
So is the newer one a
replaced.
different type of plastic or same?
The
kind
new
of-
dock, it will be light transparent, so it'll have the decking like what you see on the North Cove Pier and at Sunset Pier. And then the ramp will be steel or metal, and it'll also have that flow through decking on it as well. The new product will have a longer lifespan than the existing product. They've made some significant upgrades in the type of materials, and so we're
Where's it come from?
Florida.
Oh, it does. That's right. I remember that now.
Yeah.
Great.
So the farmer's market is going to continue through August. It's on Wednesdays from 3 to 7. If you haven't had a chance to stop by, it's worth it. And movies in the park will show Goonies on August 23rd at 7:30 at Lundeen. And then Going a Viking will be held September 7th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Lundeen Park. So if either one of those call to you, then you can volunteer for that. And that's all I had for the parks update.
Good stuff.
Is, have we been approached recently about the bike races that we used to do all the time?
Are you referring to the triathlons?
The triathlon, yeah. 'cause
We
I
do
mean,
have
We
a-
used to do that every year for years and years, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared.
Voodoo has always been here and it continues to be here. That's our first week of September. I think they're playing around with the date, but that is our Olympic distance triathlon. And they've been,
Is that like the, because then we used to host like the regional or,
The 70.3 Ironman.
we did have a half
Ironman,
Ironman
yeah.
here for several years. Ironman had a restructure and they wanted to start just spreading out their half Ironmans versus their full Ironmans. So they started to approach it in a different type of way. So right now, the closest half, I believe, is still down in Maple Valley. But they
that was
had,
a big event.
yeah, they had hit some saturation points for the Pacific Northwest. And so they had to start looking at which ones they consolidated. And yeah, they went through a new ownership transfer as well. So that particular one, you're right, it did go away, but we still have Voodoo, our Olympic distance. They do a sprint and an Olympic distance. And they're thinking about adding a duathlon, or they did add a duathlon last year.
Just don't hear about it anymore.
Yeah, well, that's good
Probably-
feedback.
Probably because the newspaper's not around anymore, because that always used to heavily advertise the race and
It's
stuff.
true.
So our activity guide will be posting the internal events that we heavily go over in these meetings, as well as external events, which often we're not talking about in these meetings. So for instance, the Voodoo, the Lake Stevens Triathlon does happen September 7th here out of North Cove in the early morning, whereas Going to Vikings starts at 11 o'clock over at Lundin. But I think that this Trails Guide, the intent is to help become the hub of the community and let everybody know what is happening in Lake Stevens. We know not everybody's on social media, not everybody's going on our website. And so the idea is we're not going to, at this point, go to a professional print and have a huge guide, but it's something, and we'll be putting it out as often as we have content. So the theory is between 2 and 3 months is how frequently we want to be getting a new copy out. And so that, for instance, has the information for Voodoo and other events.
Can I say something about the farmer's market? If anyone hasn't missed the farmer's market, this Wednesday, they're having kid vendors. So there'll be 30 kids vendors out there along the side by the little
They're having
skate
what?
park area.
I can't hear what whoever's talking.
This
Get closer to
Wednesday,
your microphone.
This Wednesday at the farmer's market, they're going to be hosting kid vendors. So they'll have 30 kid vendors out there selling stuff, not food, various crafts. And I think someone has dog treats, as someone told me. So it's just kind of cool to go out there and see little kids' entrepreneurial spirits.
That's great.
Any other questions?
Have a question? The area is growing a lot. And property is getting tougher. Are we going to way to research that we can get some more set aside in parks?
Jill actively with her job is combing properties that could be potential for parks. Specifically, we know on the south side of the lake, specifically the southeast side of the lake, we have a huge gap. And we do need parkland. But with it continually being expensive, often the developers right now are just a couple steps ahead of us. So the way that the board can help is if you hear of anybody wanting to sell their land, if you know of anybody who might want to leave their legacy on their land, it doesn't mean you have to sell today. We can always do a first right of refusal. We can also look at other options like rent back, ways for people to still occupy their own land for a certain period of time if they're interested. So we're always looking for potential land. But then it really just becomes, can the city afford it? And can we enter a deal with the person before the developers get a step ahead and are offering more cash?
Check on the one on 20th. And the end where the park went on the trail. there's an old house sitting back and I think that guy's got quite a bit of acreage.
Are you
Do
talking
you,
about
do
the
you
one-
know the person by
No, I don't.
chance?
Are you talking about the one by Hartford Field?
Pardon?
Are you talking about the one by Hartford Field where the Centennial Trail runs through?
Well, when you go on 20th here,
Oh,
you get down to the trail. Parking's on the left side, but across the street is a
Oh.
house with a lot of green acreage around it.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to, I think it was their son years ago,
Mm.
and they were kind of interested in it. But I didn't pass it on and then nobody really went to their door or anything. So, anyway,
Yes.
Sometimes people immediately don't love to have us just door knock. We can certainly try attempts at sending letters. Often our letters look pretty intimidating as well. Once they meet Jill, they just want to keep talking to her, but that introduction can be so important. So
Yeah.
any information, Jill certainly follow up and try those cold attempts. But if you ever do meet somebody, if you can get their name or number or offer to bring them into the office or any kind of connection
Mhm.
really helps bridge that gap
It
for
does.
us. Yeah.
It does.
working with the realtors or the land people and stuff. If you have a rule, you have to have so much of this and so much of that for a park or whatever. Can we expand that a little bit so there's a little bit bigger park size when they're doing a development?
So I believe that what you're talking about is what the developers are required to do for their private parks. Those are private parks. And I know land use is held with the Planning and Community Development Department. And so I imagine this board could review it and make a recommendation
Mhm.
to the Planning Commission, but I'm not sure that we would be able to do anything other than just that. Is it something that you want us to bring to you in a future meeting so you can see what the current requirements are?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Okay. Yeah, we can certainly share
Go
that.
up 9 now towards Arlington and holy cow, on the west side, it's just,
Yeah.
and a lot of these builders have gotten away with 5 feet apart and
Yeah.
small pet play parks or something.
Yeah, and we can certainly look at it as we know parks are important, but that would be for private parks and what they're giving directly to their residents. And just like the current HOAs, there's no requirement for them to replace a playground once it goes away or to replace a basketball hoop once it breaks, for instance. So they can offer open land, but then the types of amenities on it may change over time. And then one thing we'll be doing with our chapter 5, when we redo this big comprehensive plan, as you flip through it, you see all of these service levels. And so it defines what do you call a community park, a neighborhood park, and then what area does it serve? And so that's stuff that we'll be deep diving into, and we'll be able to set our own standards for the public parks department and what our residents deserve from a city perspective, regardless of that private offering.
I got a question, Jill. Can you make a park out of a dedicated green belt?
Yes and no. It depends on how it was dedicated.
Okay.
If it
Because
was,
there's a piece of property that's from 72nd by Cavalo Ridge up to 10th, and it's a huge gully, and it's like some first growth, mostly second growth timber back there. It's just beautiful. There's like 4 owls living back there,
yeah.
and I just wonder. I mean, it's so dense. It's just be a beautiful place for hiking trail because it's big enough.
Yeah. Oftentimes those, I mean, on the face of it, of course, a developer generally dedicates
Right.
land that that's not buildable. So it's a critical area of some
Right.
sort. So we want to protect the critical area, but things like a passive trail, those types of things are allowed. But when people have brought forward, developing it for a
Right.
baseball field or something, those are going to be not
Mhm.
available in most of those places. But
Okay.
no, what you're saying is it will be part of our major update of looking at those. Are they dedicated to the city? Because a lot of them were dedicated to the city. And then what can the city use that's responsible to the environment, but also to provide for a recreation element for the residents here?
It's a beautiful piece
Yeah.
of property for a passive.
I know
trail
the
because-
piece, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, there's a stream down there and it's just, the moss and, you know, it's pristine, Pacific Northwest forest, what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that's a lot of what you'd see up at Eagle Ridge as well,
Mhm.
and that trail down the backside of it.
I think this is more rustic than Eagle Ridge. I
Yeah.
really. do.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's pretty,
We do have a lot of those really beautiful
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah, we should totally build more trails.
oh yeah, passive trail, I mean, it'd be a because it's big, it's long.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
it's,
we
but
need-
it's steep, but you know, if you could
You
make
put
the trail down
switchbacks in there.
below, yeah, you
We
could,
need
but it's
more
pretty,
stuff like
it's
that
pretty
around here.
steep. But yeah, I mean, you could do anything really.
Japanese Gulch and Big Gulch in Everett are both really steep.
That's
and
true,
They have
too.
all kinds of awesome trails and
Yeah.
it's a great place to hike and walk your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, are we ready to move on to board member reports?
Sure.
Do I ask everybody about the board member reports? Okay,
Stop by and buy a fish.
Okay.
We'll be there tomorrow. We're getting down towards the end, so you better grab.
okay. So is that your board member report, Carl?
That's my board review.
Okay. Do we just want to go in order?
Sure. Nothing to report.
I wanted to add a couple of items. So I visited the Marysville pump track and checked that out. And I went to the Mukilteo Garden trails at the Gulch. They have a new, like they have 3 new mountain bike jump lines and a pump track, and it's all made out of dirt. And the city just allowed the Mukilteo Gulch Trail builders to build it there and provided, I think, dirt and space and things like that. So I was curious if we've decided what we're doing with the dog park area, or like some of the property leading up to the dog park on Cavallero Park, and if there's an option for, you know, something temporary like dirt jumps or a dirt pump track or something like that.
But for Cavallero Park is a county park. And we do not operate that as Lake Stevens Parks. They do have a master plan, but that would be up to them to execute. So I would highly advise that you go either remotely or in person to the county parks board meeting, so that you can express any ideas, or you can also call their department to see what they're doing or if they'd be open to ideas.
Is that park eventually going to come into the city? I thought that there was some,
So yes, and I think this also ties into Carl's question of what about future parks and what do our futures look like at this point? When a city expands their urban growth boundary, naturally it would acquire county parks. County parks does allow for us to acquire their parks, provide the same service or an increased level of service at those locations. So from there, it really just becomes a game of staffing, money, and timing, appetite by the city. I was asked to prepare a 5-year plan for parks, including staffing costs, potential growth, and what that would look like over a 5-year period for managing all the lands that we own, in addition to acquiring the 2 county parks, and then what the recreation side of our growth looks like for our department, as well as what the field needs. That became a multi-million-dollar project in order to execute it. And at this time, council said, hey, table that. We don't want to make any decisions and bring it to our next retreat. And then in speaking to executives right now, we are just trying to keep up with our normal growth in the current parks that we do manage. And because of that, this next year going into 2025, at this time, we are not trying to acquire the Lake Stevens Community Park or the Cavallero Park. We have crunched the numbers to see what staffing levels and costs that would be. That wasn't a public presentation that I gave to City Council. I can find the meeting date and give it to you if you'd like to review it. They've asked for a bit more information, such as what does it cost to hire these staff over the next 6-10 years? So I'll be bringing that back, but they haven't made any movement to execute that, although the county is extremely interested in giving us that. Once we acquire one or both of the parks, we would be looking at any master plans and deciding if we want to revamp their master plan, if we're executing what's already there, and just can't really make any decisions about what we would do with it until we acquire it.
All right,
I do have one more that
go ahead, Carl.
the tile on the water feature we've got installed. And so it starts at Mount Pilchuck. It comes down through out to with fish, otters. And it's really great addition. And we'll be putting fish on the outside of that with your logo on it or whatever. If you're walking out, just stop by and take a look at the tile.
Absolutely.
It's really,
Yeah, excited to see that.
yeah, makes it nice.
Cool. Thanks, Carl.
So that's enough.
I have nothing.
Nothing to report. All right, Colton.
Nothing for me, Brian. Thanks.
All right. And we have
Tina.
Tina.
There, okay. So to build off of what Carl said, that half wall at the water feature has now artwork on one side, and the fish we're talking about are these steel fish, and I think we brought them one time. I think the foundation brought them one time to show you what they look like, and so they're steel fish that are extremely thin that could be mounted on the other side of the wall, and then etched into the fish is whatever legacy you want to put on it. And so yeah, go out and look at that. And then the other thing I was wondering is if, Jacqueline, if you could send us, or just me, whoever else wants it maybe, a list of all of the places that either the city or the parks have for social media, because I don't know where to go look. And I know that, like, I get text messages. I've signed up for text messages from the city, so I get everything. But if there's one for just the parks, I'd like to know about that too.
I can definitely do that. Not a problem.
Thanks. I don't know if anybody else would like that, but
Okay. Was there anything else to report?
that is it.
All right, upcoming agenda items.
Do you have anything specific?
I would love to see that presentation that Sarah was talking about that you gave to the council about 5 years look.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll send out the YouTube link.
Oh, yeah.
Then if you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out to me. Or if you, after reviewing it, want to bring it back to this group discussion, we absolutely can as well.
Okay, that would be great.
That way it'll save everybody about a half hour. And
Searching.
you can see what
Right.
questions the council already had and the information given.
Right. Okay, thanks.
For me, upcoming, I just wanted to ask a question about, I saw that, we crossed off the pump track and the climbing wall at Centennial Woods. Do we have I know we haven't completed like a master plan or anything. Would there be an opportunity for potential like dirt jumps or something there on the moat gas line area if they were not permanent?
I'll have to go back and look at my notes from that. When we met with Puget Sound Energy, their initial reaction was really.
Jill, can you turn your mic on, please?
Sorry about that. I'll have to go back and pull out my project notes on that. Originally, when we went to PSC, they came back with a real favorable response to it, but didn't want anything on their pipeline or their property. So we had originally contacted them to talk about parking on their property, and their idea of what that would look like was slightly different than what the city's vision was for the project. After the critical areas report came back, there was just not a lot of usable space. So whatever's master planned at Centennial or Yeah.
Centennial Woods.
Centennial Woods. Oh, I get them all mixed up every once in a while. That would have to be a real passive use. So, as far as the dirt berms, I'll have to check and see what my notes were on it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
What I remember is that the only location we would be able to do something was right against the border of the neighboring property. I remember that piece. And then once we do activate the area, it is something you probably don't have to provide restrooms at all parks, but we are trying to with our standards for anything that's not a walkable park from your house. And then adding this service of trash cleanup, having to mow or stuff like that. So just considerations, not saying it's impossible, but if I remember, one of the major reasons we backed off that location was because of the size and then it being so close to the neighboring property is what I remember.
Yeah. I can pull out my notes though.
Yeah.
And put it in the next update.
Yeah, thanks.
You bet.
I have something to add to that, Brian.
Jill, at least 5 times over the past 2 months of, have we found any potential spots for the pump track?
We are
Um,
looking for
so-
a spot for the pump track.
Yeah, actually,
actively looking
Snohomish
for stuff.
County, I was on a meeting with them. They have 2 potential spots, one up near Granite Falls and I think the other near Three Lakes.
Mhm.
For not only just a pump track, but like some actual mountain bike trails and like a skills area and stuff like that. So that would be really nice and serve the community pretty good too. So
Was it Three Lakes or Flowing Lake?
I thought it was Three Lakes. but
Okay.
I know Flowing Lake was one of the potential spots, but it didn't make the
Okay.
the cut.
Just put some jumps on the or Bayview Trail.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, wherever we can get them.
Can
Tina,
I add something? Oops, sorry.
no, I was just saying, Tina, did you want to mention? So go
I,
ahead.
I did. So I know that Jill said we're not going to acquire Cavalier Park in the near future, but I thought I remembered when we were briefed on their master plan that they had an area for bikes. But I
There's a-
can't remember if it was
A covered BMX park, but
a
I think
BMX park, but maybe we can convince them to put a pump track in instead of a BMX park, you know?
we tried multiple times there and there was some like conflict with some of the other ideas that they had there.
Oh,
Yeah.
just a thought.
At one point, I think it was they wanted to get like one of those indoor sports, like they have in Mill Creek. What's that called? Arena sports or something like that at one point. I don't know.
But you never know. We might be able to convince them to do that.
I've talked to, I think it's Tom Tigan a
Mm-hmm.
number of times and yeah, they said they had other plans for that area. And that the BMX track was no longer part of the plan.
Top secret.
All right, any other items? I can
Make a motion to
adjourn,
return.
right?
I
All in
second.
favor? All in favor?
I.
Hi.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Bye, guys.